thing up at the top. There we go.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Testing, testing. Hello. Hey, BookTube. It's Sylvia. Please leave me a heart, smiley face, or emoji down below to let me know that you are here. Because that makes my day, and that's why I'm here. So I had a bright idea to start a talk show because when I was a little kid, that's what people said that they thought I was going to become, a talk show host when I get older. So I decided to ask everybody to send recommendations, and these three wonderful people were recommended very, very passionately in the beginning. So I'm going to ask them some pretty hardcore questions about reading and reviewing and booktube and the booktube community. Um, and the category, so when I review books, I talk about 7 things. I talk about representation, reader health, education, writing style, plot, characters, pleasure, entertainment. And these folks are going to talk a little bit about writing style. That's going to be maybe 2 questions that I'm asking are going to be about writing style. Also, I have Sabrina Stacacino moderating my chat, so please be nice to her and please be nice to all of us. Actually, don't be an asshole. Okay, so we're going to start with question 1. And we're going to go Kerri, Becca, Allana. Kerri.
Mm-hmm.
So the definition of a writing style is beyond the essential elements of spelling, grammar, and punctuation, writing style is a choice of words, sentence structure, and paragraph structure used to convey meaning effectively. So what have you noticed to be one of your favorite writing styles?
So personally, I like a simple and straightforward writing style. I know that flowery writing is very popular, especially on BookTube, but like Laini Taylor, not my thing. I find that to be a bit cumbersome. I find that actually the most impactful writing style for me is very simple. I actually just, I think yesterday, finished Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylwia Moreno Garcia, and that had a very simplistic writing style, but the word choice that she used also made it very beautiful and poetic. So I think I tend to lean more towards simple and straightforward than for flowery. I know a lot of people prefer that, but I'm the odd on that, I guess.
Cool. I love that you said that it can still be poetic even though it's concise. Because I feel like people always think like it's got to be either like the mathematical concise or the flowery poetic, but there can be a mix. Like every author can have a different writing style.
Exactly. And that's what I tend to find most impactful.
Cool, cool. And can you say the book title again?
That was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylwia Moreno Garcia.
Cool, cool. Thank you. Same question, Becca. So, what have you noticed to be one of your favorite writing styles?
I am the opposite. I like my flowery prosaical writing. I love Lady Taylor. Jay Kristoff is also similar, although he is a little bit different because I would say that his writing is not necessarily as beautiful as Laini Taylor, but it is very metaphorical. Some other things that I like in a writing style that some people don't is I like an info dump at the beginning.
Oh,
So if you're gonna like info dump like 5 chapters building up the world and the magic system, obviously I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction. I'm fine with that because I like to know these things going into a book. Like I want to know what's what, so that when things are going down, like I know why. I'm like a very logical person, which is weird because I like the flowery writing style. But because I'm so logical, I like things to be grounded. I have made the joke many times that I like my fantasies to be as realistic as possible. Like they have to make sense, but then with contemporary, I like them to be completely over dramatic and not realistic at all.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned metaphor because that's like one of the biggest types of writing that you can have. And I also love that you mentioned like realistic fantasy. Like you just,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you just took that straight. I relate to that so strongly.
Yeah, I think I like science fiction more than fantasy now as well because obviously science fiction has to be more like it has to be somewhat possible. So it's very logical and it's very rooted in things that could possibly happen. So yeah, like I like my fantastical stories to be as realistic as possible, and then contemporary, I want them to be over dramatic and angsty and all of that jazz.
Do you have a sci-fi recommendation for beginners?
For beginners, I've just read the Illuminate files. That's good. I would recommend listening to the audiobook and reading it at the same time. If you are a contemporary reader and you want to try science fiction, I would recommend The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, because I find that deals with a lot of real world topics. Like it deals with issues such as racism, but using alien races instead of human races. So everything that goes on in that series is very relatable to real life, but it's set in space.
Cool. Thanks. I'm gonna pick up Illuminae. You've convinced me.
It's good. It's really good.
Cool. And Allana, same question for you. So what have you noticed to be one of your favorite writing styles?
Okay, so I feel weird because I don't think I have one. I don't know. I think it depends for me, like on the author, I guess. Like, so if I pick up a book and I'm reading it and like I'll like the style, and then I don't know if I've noticed, I guess. Maybe it's a work in progress for me. But like, I don't know, I guess with like I tend to lean more towards contemporary because I like how I guess some semi-realistic they are, but in a sense they're also not realistic, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe that.
You're talking
Like,
about fabulism.
yeah, like I can like it's not real enough that it's relatable to my life, but it's still somehow relatable, I guess.
Okay, so you're talking about contemporary that's in different settings.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. But
Yeah,
I
it was
think that
just
makes sense that you read an author and then you enjoy that author and you kind of go based on them rather and not like necessarily grouping types of writing style together.
yeah, like I never really like was like, oh, I like this certain writing style. It's more like, oh, I just like this author because like I like the way they write their stories and I like the way they portray their characters and stuff like that. So like the only person I can think of right now is Sarah Dessen because I just recently read a book by her, and I like the way she like just I guess her stories kind of flow together. And again, it's like relatable, but still not relatable enough for me to be like, this is exactly my life, like kind of thing at the same time.
Okay, so interesting, but still you can see yourself in parts of it.
Yeah.
Cool. I really love that you all had like completely different answers, and that's like exactly the point of this. On the same topic, my second question is, so authors can play around with grammar and formatting rules, right? And can you name an author whose out-of-the-box grammatical decisions have worked for you?
So I'm going first. I'm gonna back up Becca and say that Illuminae was killer. The whole thing messes with the traditional storytelling format because there are some like transcripts of vocal recordings. There are some text messages, and it really sort of plays around with that format. And I know that probably took so much effort on the author's part, so I really respect that. But also, there was an older book, I believe it was called Blood Red Road by Maura Young, and it was a dystopian, but there were no quotation marks. So when people spoke, it didn't look any different than like descriptive text. And it took a little while to get into, but after a while, I don't know why, but it felt cool. Like it was easy to pick up on. And I'm not sure why the author chose to do that, but I mean, I enjoyed the read regardless. So, I mean, even if authors do like something a little experimental or out of the box, you know, I think still give it a shot because it's still good work for you. You know, your brain can adapt really well. So
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like fascinating to see how easily we can adapt to something that we've never even seen before. That's cool.
It was weird at first, but like after a couple chapters, you're like start to figure out the people's speaking voices as opposed to the writer's descriptive voice, and so that kind of
Yeah, cool. And that was The Road, right, by Cormac McCarthy?
No, that was Blood Red Road by
Maura. Oh, wow. That's funny that you said that because The Road does exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's so funny. Same question, Becca. Can you name an author whose out-of-the-box grammatical decisions worked for you?
I am really picky about things like this. Like I'm currently reading Stardust by Neil Gaiman, and the way that he structures his sentences, he'll put like the clause, I think it's the clauses, he puts the clauses the wrong way around in some sentences, and I keep having to go back and reread it. And in books like that, I do find it really like clunky and it messes with the flow. But as Kerri said, like Illuminae works really well. I also love, I don't know if any of you guys will have read these books, but the Confessions of Georgia Nicholson series by Louise Renison. It's a UK
one, right?
Sorry, yeah,
Not
Angus,
sex
Tongs,
gods,
and
yeah.
Full Frontal Snogging. They changed all the names for a US audience as well. But I grew up with that series, and the main character and her friends have a made up language, and they just make up words on the spot. So like they add osity onto the end of every word. So like if something's fabulous, it'll be like full of fabulosity and
Oh.
things like that. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with it, but I've adopted lots of terms like that into the language because it was my favorite book series. But it's what, and as well as that, the books are all in diary format. So that is one time when it has worked for me, and then my friends read it as well. So like we could kind of adopt the language together. But the way that they did it, it was really relatable because obviously, like different friendship groups, like you'll misspeak once and then you'll start using that word when you're talking to your friends because it reminds you of that time and things like that. So that is one series where being written differently and adopting a different grammatical way of telling the story has really worked for me.
Cool. I love that you mentioned because authors have such a power to impact our language. Like there are so many authors who just created words and now they're our words and they're in the dictionary. That's really cool. All right. Same question for Allana. Can you name an author whose out of the box grammatical decisions worked for you?
The person that comes to mind is, I think, Elizabeth Acevedo with the Poet X, because of the fact that she does her stuff in it's prose, right? That's the right word I'm thinking of. Just because, so in like high school, I was not the biggest fan of poetry. I hated it. I just could never ever connect to it or understand what was going on. It was the worst thing ever. And so when authors started writing their books like that, I got really nervous because I was like, I really want to read these books, but I don't know if I'm going to understand what they're trying to say because it's just, there's something about it just never really connected with me. But, and granted, I haven't finished it and I need to finish it. Mostly because I borrowed it from the library and then I had to return it. But I was listening to it on like audiobook and I like found that I loved it so much. And it was like the first time I was really like enjoying like slam poetry, and I never really heard it before too. And so I was like, wow, this is like super cool to be able to like enjoy this like book that's not, I don't want to say normal because like I feel like there's no definition of normal for a book, but like it's different. So I liked that. And then another book I was thinking of was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. The way that I like the way that she writes the story, like the way she uses her words and stuff. But the thing that I thought was really cool was that I think she writes it in kind of like a diary format. And so the thing that I found cool was that within the book, I guess, and I didn't read it, I read it I listened to the audiobook as well. But with the book, she crosses out a lot of things. And so I thought it was cool in the audiobook form when you're listening to the person speak, as she's speaking, you hear the cross-outs. Like you just hear her like crossing out whatever she was saying like beforehand. And that was really cool because I felt like you were kind of in her head with her as she was like writing her diary. And so that was like something new too that I never really experienced. And so I realized like, those were my two examples.
Shatter Me definitely stands out to me too because of those cross outs, and I've heard the audiobook. And I think when you're talking about the Poet X, which is one of my favorite books, by the way, is it freestyle? I don't know. Kerri and Becca, maybe you guys remember. I feel like there's a free something is what it's called.
Oh, isn't it? Is it? I thought, is it spoken word?
Spoken word. That's what it is.
Is it spoken word?
Is it?
Or performance poetry?
Free verse poetry, maybe?
Free verse. I think that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm not very good with poetry. I don't read a lot of books that are told in prose.
Yeah, I think free verse is what it basically when you're writing and it doesn't always have like a structure or a beat.
Yeah.
Okay.
As opposed to like
Sabrina says it is free verse. Oh, okay, Sabrina reads a lot of poetry, so okay. That makes it true. Thanks. My third question. If you enjoy readathons, what do you think could make them more inclusive and fulfilling? If you don't enjoy readathons, what elements would convince you to try one? Starting with Kerri.
So I like readathons. I run one called Zodiacathon.
That's right.
But I mean, I do a lot of them. And something I've noticed is that the competitive ones are popular now. Mayana kind of started that with BookTube games, which became Biblio games. So people are doing a lot of like team related things or like competing with each other, and that's super cool. But I've found that a lot of people are hesitant to join them because they don't like the competitive aspect.
Mhm.
So I think having an option for it to be not competitive, and the Avatar: The Last Airbender readathon that Mayless is running, actually she did this recently. So she's running an Avatar themed one, and you have like the 4 different like element nations, and then she created a separate group. I think she calls it like the White Lotus, which is like one of the secret societies in the show or something. But that's for if you want to, do the readathon, but you don't want to be part of any team. Because I know it can be very, anxiety inducing and stressful for some people. So I love that she did that. And I would really like to see more of the competitive styles offer that option.
Yeah, that's really cool. And a very good alternative to like making a readathon just be one thing for one group of people. That's awesome.
I know some people enjoy them, but like if you're on a team, there's that pressure to not let other people down. And I know that can be stressful for people. So having that option to like just be you is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And I specifically asked this question because I know about the Zodiac readathon. Is it the Zodiac-a-thon?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. The one that you have going on soon is going to be brutal. She's going after all of our weaknesses, and I'm living.
Everyone comes back to me and is like, why would you do this? Mostly the Virgos, because the Virgos don't want other people to pick their stuff.
Oh.
Just to have someone else pick them, so they have to let go of the control that they so love. And I find so many Virgos come to me and be like, how do you expect me to do this? I don't do this.
Too bad, so sad. Sorry, Virgos. Becca, what is your sign? Because I know that your 2 co-guests are both Cancers.
I am a Taurus through and through.
Okay. Okay. So
I'm
do you
a
like
typical
readathons or
Taurus.
hate them?
I do. I really love readathons. I used to, last year I did a whole ton of readathons. I was doing at least one a month. Now I can't because I do Bookopoly. So I'm like tied to that TBR. So I'm limited to the amount of other readathons I can participate in. My favorite readathon by far is the Owls and the Newts.
Oh.
Because I like the it's kind of a choose your own adventure almost, and I obviously like the Hogwarts aspect of it and being able to like sit your exams. So the second round, like the Newts, is coming up in August. My favorite types of readathons are themed ones. I'm not too bothered about the length anymore because at this point I feel like there's a readathon for everyone. But like you have your 1 week, your 2 weeks, and your month longs. The month longs I find to be a little bit more fun sometimes because you can like space it out, and then you have like you might have a really good week 1 week and then a slumpy week, but it doesn't matter because it does go on for a week. Regarding like the inclusivity of readathons, with there being so many now and so many different types and so many different ways of participating in them, I really think that there is a readathon for everyone. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily anything that could be done to promote inclusivity, because I mean, as with everything in life, just some things aren't for you. So while one, like obviously the reading rush is super intense right now, and that is not for everyone, but for people who can't read so many books in a week or don't want to and can't push out all that content, then you could do like a 2 week long readathon, that because there's multiple every month now. When I started booktube, I don't think there were many overlapping readathons. But at the minute, you can guarantee there's probably 2 readathons at least going every week. There's just so many.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you can always find the one that works for you. Because I remember I hate week-long ones because I don't read during weekdays. So I started the 24-hour ones on weekends, and those worked for me. And now I'm going to try the month-long ones and see if they work. But that's I love that you mentioned we basically have everything for everybody. Like at this point, and if we don't, we like the person who wants something different can start it, right?
I think with what Kerri said about the competitiveness, I feel that in all aspects of things at the minute. So a lot of people will feel FOMO at not doing certain readathons, but at the same time, like I do a hell of a lot all of the time, and it's come to the point now where I have to admit that I can't do everything. And I feel like that's something that other people also have to accept. Like, this readathon might not be for you, but you might just have to accept it and like pick another one that works better for you on better dates, or it's a better time period or something. But definitely with the competitive, I don't want to say it's competitiveness, but just with so much going on at BookTube at the minute, because the community is growing so much, we can't do everything. And we have to pick and choose what we do and just be okay with letting everything else go.
Absolutely. Self-care within your self-care.
Yeah.
Allana, how about you? What do you think could make them more inclusive or fulfilling if you enjoy them, which I think you do?
I think I enjoy them too much now. I remember like last year I didn't even know what a readathon was, and then this year I just signed up for all of them, and I think it's like what Becca said with like the FOMO, like, and it's also like I see them and they're so fun, and I'm like, I want to join them, and like I want to support. But at the same time, I get to like when they're happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? Why did I do this to myself? I think, but I agree with Becca, like where there are like so many for like there are so many for everybody now, and I love that. Like I love that people can just like find something they love and then just make it a readathon. Like it's so cool. Like they did the Avatar: The Last Airbender. B did the Sailor Moon-a-thon. Like it's cool that you could just pick up something and just make it into something and incorporate books with it, because I feel like that just, I don't know, creates a little corner for everybody. Maybe if like they haven't found their little thing they want to participate in yet. I also agree that it's also like self-care that you have to like limit yourself, and that's something I've learned this summer, with the fact that like I just keep signing up for readathons because they look so fun, but I've learned like, okay, I gotta kind of scale back. I can't do everything. And with Kerri, like what Kerri mentioned, the Avatar: The Last Airbender one, I like the fact that there is an option for like a non-competitive version or like team or whatever, because of the fact that like I like the month-long ones, but they can get a little competitive, and sometimes it is a little overwhelming for those people who just like aren't at that level. So I like that they included that extra option of like, if you just want to kind of like chill out and just read one book, you can chill on this team and coast with us this whole month, and it's all good.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that it's a way to find your people sometimes for some folks, like Sailor Moon fans, Avatar fans. Now there's the Disney-a-thon coming up. You kind of can find more people that kind of like the same things you do, not just books.
Yeah. Because I remember like when I started this year, I was like, I'm gonna start slow and like see what readathons I want to do. Like I don't really know which ones, and I wasn't gonna sign up for like a month-long one or a competitive one because I knew that I just wasn't at that level where I was like, I can do that. But then B did the Sailor Moon-a-thon, and I was like, I really want to participate in that, because like I was like, I feel like this is calling to me, and like I like messaged them and I was like, hey, like it's okay if you say no, but can I please help you with this? Like, can I host or something? Because this would be so fun. And they said yes, and so I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I get to nerd out with people who also love Sailor Moon, so this is pretty awesome.
That's so cool. So it also gave you an opportunity to network, if we can use that term, and like grow as a content creator. Excellent.
Definitely.
So I want to take a minute for you guys to plug something that you're working on. So since a lot of us work on different projects, or if you had a video that you recently were really proud of. So Kerri, what is a readathon video challenge, tag, or event that you want to plug?
So since I already mentioned Zodiac-a-thon, I'm going to go ahead and skip that. But the next round is September 4th to the 8th if y'all want to join. The challenges are challenging this time around. Sorry, everybody. But the one thing I did want to plug is the BookTube Roundtable discussions, which I host with Ness from Vinexa and Kevin from Storyglyph. And we basically bring in a group of people every other month. It's not every month, it's every other month. That belong to a certain minority on BookTube, and we discuss how the community can be better and what their experience is, and how can we grow and things like that. So if you go to my channel, you can find we've done a race in BookTube, we've done LGBT BookTubers, and we've done neurodiverse BookTubers. And this coming August, we're doing BookTubers ages 30 and up. The Twitter is @BTRT Discussions. If you want to keep up with that, but I think it's a really good opportunity for everybody to sort of hear what fellow community members have to say, especially those who belong to an oppressed minority. So it's basically just like this. It's a discussion. There are some questions, and you really get to hear everybody's experience. So I know that it's been a big help for some people to really understand where other people are coming from. So if you would like to learn more about your fellow content creators, check it out.
Yes, and thank you so much for creating that, because I think you created it during a time where especially booktubers of color weren't being heard. So I think that was part of your response to that, trying to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I come from a journalism background, so I initially went into it more like this, like it was just going to be interviews, but I figured maybe a discussion would be more beneficial for the community, so that's sort of how it evolved. So I'm really excited that you're doing this, because that's what I ended up doing. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Same question, Becca. Do you have something you want to plug? A readathon video challenge, tag, or event?
I have my own TBR game, which I think is the thing that I'm kind of known for now. I started it in January. It's called Bookopoly, and I have a Monopoly board that has all different genre prompts on it and different challenges and things like that. I essentially made my own readathon just for myself.
Cool.
So every month we have 5 rolls, which is 5 books. Whatever prompt I land on, I have to pick a book. I have to pick a book to fulfill that prompt. If I roll a double, I have to add more books onto my TBR that month, and I have to read them. And if I don't, then I will get a punishment. And I haven't failed yet, but I think I'm going to this month. And my punishment is going to be, I'm going to ask for recommendations of books that people would not recommend to their enemies, and I have to read one.
Oh
So that tweet, if you want to make me suffer, that tweet should be going up sometime this weekend, where I'll be asking for recommendations, and I'm going to pull a random one out of a jar. So if any of you guys want to see Bookopoly, I think my next one will be going up Tuesday or Wednesday for August. And there is likely to be a punishment in there, because I have 4 books I still need to read. It's not going well.
Okay. Well, it was bound to happen eventually.
Yeah, it was.
And then plus you get that Monopoly has that little jail slot. So that's where you're at now. You're going to go to jail?
Oh, I took the jail out because I really didn't know what to do for it and how to get out of jail kind of thing. So I have lots of sort of interactive squares on the board. So my jail spot is for a video that I did last year. Every year in December, I do every book I own on my TBR, and I ask people to go to that video and choose the books out of that video that they want me to read. And then if I land on that square, then I go to the comments of the video and I just pick a random one off there, and that will be the book that I read that month.
Oh, cool. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's really creative.
Yeah, it has I've got TBR jars. I have cards, what would be the chance cards have a random selection of books. Half of them are ones I'm not too interested in that I own, and half of them are ones that I'm really excited to read. And then the community chest cards are a selection of my favorite prompts from other readathons. So things like Twitter recommends, and then I'll just put loads of books on Twitter, and people can pick which one they want me to read and things like that.
Cool. I love that. I personally love making my own, forcing myself to read things. So that sounds like you're in the same boat. All right,
Yeah.
cool. I'm definitely going to be watching that. And I'm especially going to be recommending you some shitty books to read. That's going to be fun.
Thank you.
Allana, how about you? What would you like to plug? A readathon video challenge, tag, or event?
Okay, so I don't have my creative mojo yet, so I haven't created anything, and I'm totally okay with that in my corner. But
Amen.
I am gonna plug Monsterathon, which is a readathon Kate just created for September.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna plug that because it sounds really fun and I'm super excited. I'm on teen conspiracies, even though I just talked about limiting myself. I didn't limit myself, so I definitely think that's super fun. Plus, I have a lot of friends that are hosting it, like Justin from Ghost Streets and Sarah from Novel Serendipity, and so I think it'll be really fun to take part in, especially because I feel like Kate did such a good job of being creative with it and coming up with different ideas and just the prompts and stuff. So.
Excellent. And I already told Kate that I love that she's starting it in September, because that's when Halloween really starts. Everybody can understand that. And I think it's awesome that you're being such a supportive content creator, Allana, that you're hyping your friends up and trying to help them out.
I'm a professional hype man.
I love it. Okay, so my next question is BookTube related. So Kerri, what is a challenge that you experienced during your BookTube journey that you wish someone had helped you with?
Okay, so I thought about this ahead of time, and I wrote down figuring out my brand or aesthetic. Um, but I feel like that's something no one can really help you with. That's only something that you can figure out the more you do this. Something I wish someone had told me ahead of time is success on this platform is 97% luck. And it's really easy for me personally, because I'm a Capricorn moon, to get very jealous, and I do get very envious, and I do get down on myself when I don't see my numbers growing as some other people's. And I don't think I realized until I started talking to a lot of people and seeing how amazing content was being made across the board, but not all the numbers reflected that. Just knowing that even if you don't have, whatever K subscribers or followers, that doesn't mean that you're not making an impact with your content. That doesn't mean that people aren't enjoying what you're making. That doesn't detract from anything that you're doing. Because I think we all definitely can get caught up in the numbers, especially when we start, because we see everybody that's already established with their numbers. And it can be really hard to grow when you first start. Like, that's just a truth across the board. So I wish someone had told me all of that when I first started.
Amen. I think a lot of us came into BookTube with expectations based on the booktubers we were watching at the time, and those are not all of BookTube. Those are like the people who made it, and that's not what the entire community is like. Okay, how about same question, Becca? What is a challenge you experienced during your BookTube journey that you wish someone had helped you with?
I think one of the main things is how time consuming it is. Now, I know that there'll be a question coming up. I think you've got a question planned about hauls and things like that. And I don't want to say that BookTube has influenced me in that way, but having a BookTube channel, I never realized how much time I would invest into it. Because, for example, I was reading, I think I started my channel in 2017, and I read 60 books that year. Last year, I read 90 books, and I'm already on 65 books for this year so far. And it's like I have no limit. I just keep putting more and more time into it, because my boyfriend pointed out to me a couple of months ago, he said, you literally do nothing but BookTube, because if I'm not filming a video and editing it, which is like, you assume that that's all people do really, like you sit down for 15 minutes, you edit it down to 10 minutes, and then you post that video. But if I'm not doing any of that, I'm reading, or I'm responding to comments, or I'm planning like a video 2 months in advance. Like if I want to do a recommendations video and I think, oh, but I want to read like this sci-fi book before I can recommend sci-fi books. So yeah, it's definitely how time consuming it is. But like I said, I keep putting more time into it as well. So when I started out, obviously it would take me a while to do things because I didn't really know what I was doing. But then I got it down so that I could edit a video in 20 minutes. But there's always more things you can do. You can always add more in editing. You can always have more things slide in on the screen. Like I upgraded my equipment, so everything takes longer to export and upload and things like that. So it's definitely a time thing, because when you watch a booktuber, especially like I said, I started in 2017, where like the main things were sort of middle length content, so 10-minute long videos. You would sit and watch a booktuber for 10 minutes doing a haul or a tag, and you'd think, oh, like that looks really easy. But then when you do it, it takes so much time to produce what looks like a quick and easy video. Even if I make quick and easy content now, it's not as quick and easy as it seems.
It's like you said, it's planning and reading the books so you can talk about the books.
Yeah, and then Twitter as well. Like I spend a lot of time on Twitter talking to people, and then you have people ask you to host readathons and then things like live shows that are all extra on top of your channel. And yeah, it can get a lot. Like I'm co-hosting the Book Junkie Trials now as well, so then there's like staying in character to interact with people who are tweeting me about like the various challenges and things like that. So it definitely takes over a lot more of your life than you expect it to, and it takes a lot more time than you expect it to as well.
Yeah, it's like a lifestyle now. It's not just a hobby.
It is, yeah. I spend more time, if you include time reading, I spend more time working on BookTube than I do at work.
Yeah, I think we can all say that.
Yeah.
Or for the most part. How about you, Allana? What is a challenge that you experienced during your BookTube journey that you wish someone had helped you with?
So I think something I wish maybe someone would have told me going in is that like your channel is your channel, so you can post whatever you want, I guess. Like there's no straight expectation of the type of videos you need to post to make people interested. Like if you just want to do a channel of just book hauls, you can do that. If you want to do a channel of just TBR videos, you can do that too. And if you want to be outside of the box and like be more creative, you can do that as well. Like there's no standard of booktube that you have to follow in order to like enjoy it, I guess. Because like when I first started, it was like, okay, like haul, like TBR videos and hauls and stuff were the norm because it was like that's how you kind of got started. But it was a little daunting when I would see someone like come out with this like really cool creative idea, and I was like, I have no creative energy at all to come up with anything. And it took me a while to realize like that's okay. Like as long as like I just want to, or sorry, I'm trying to think of words. Like it's okay to not have like the big new creative idea to contribute, like as long as you are making the videos that you love to make and like talking about the books that you love to talk about, I feel like you are doing great.
Absolutely. I love that you bring that up because I think this was a discussion we had like 2 or 3 years ago on BookTube where everybody was saying like, stop making the same videos over and over. And then maybe in the last year, there was a response to that like, but this is why we watch BookTube. Like wrap-ups are awesome. TBRs are awesome. People love watching book hauls. Like you don't have to be creative or you don't have to be doing the same thing. Like you get to pick. And I love that you mentioned that because there's like what 10,000 of us now. Like we're allowed to do whatever we want.
Yeah, and like it's super cool that everybody's coming up with so many creative ideas and readathons and stuff like that because again, it's creating that like inclusive corner for whoever finds that that's their thing. But like it's also okay to not do that because like maybe you just don't have the time or maybe you are just not at that like place where you can just like devote that much creative energy to coming up with someone, and that's something like that, and that's okay too. Like I feel like as long as your content is somewhat relatable to somebody, it's gonna like attract somebody, I guess.
Amen. I love it. Amen. My next question is, what would you like to see more of from the people that you personally subscribe to, assuming that those folks are like the best of the best in your eyes?
So I put more non-bookish content. I know we're here for BookTube. The base of us is books. That's what we all connect over. But once we start to really connect, we really start to connect on other levels. And I love that, like Allana said, like creating readathons and stuff that have to do with things other than books can really like create that inclusive corner for people. But also like Mel from Mel to the Any, she has been doing ASMR videos, and you know some people have been doing. I know Tom has done. He released a song that he wrote and like performed. I mean, he related it to Daisy Jones and the Six, but like music is a huge part of his life, and so he shared that. I think we tend to pigeonhole ourselves into just bookish content, and like Allana said, you don't have to if you don't want to. You can do whatever the hell you want with your channel. But if you feel itching to get out of that box, because I know some of us are like, I'd love to share this part of my life or this part of my life, freaking do it, because we're all more than just readers. We're all so multifaceted and we have so many interests. And who knows, you might find more people to connect to on different levels. So I would just love to see people show what they're passionate about besides books. It's like we all know what that's why we're here. But I just personally love seeing people like get into what they love. And so
yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you do that on your channel, and that's one of the things that I love about your channel. So that makes sense. The circle kind of closes. That's cool. Same question for Becca.
I mean, first I just want to just respond to what Kerri was talking about then. I actually used to make one non-bookish video a month on my channel, but I stopped doing it because I just have too much content to put out now. Like I put out a minimum of 12 videos a month and I just can't find time to schedule any like non-bookish content. It is insane. I don't know what's happening. I just keep having more and more and more ideas. But yeah, that is definitely something that I enjoyed doing because like I collect records and I play video games and things like that. But just like I was talking about how much time it takes, like putting so much into like the booktube stuff, I just didn't have time to like continue. But that is definitely something that I do like to see, because when we're watching people so much, you get invested in their lives and things, and it's nice to see what else they do in their free time, like what else they're interested in and what else they're good at, sort of, which kind of leads nicely into something that I would like to see more of. And I know it's quite a popular type of video to do at the minute, but I actually really like reading vlogs at the minute, and I have been doing reading vlogs for after the reading rush. The next week that I will be vlogging after the reading rush will be my 50-second reading vlog, which will be one full consecutive year of my life that is in vlogs, and I haven't took a break at all, so it will literally be one full year of my life in vlogs. But it's something that I've only really enjoyed watching in the last few months. And the thing that I really love about reading vlogs is it enables you to introduce other aspects of your life. So that also leads on from what Kerri was saying, because it's my vlogs are a lot of reading, but also anything else that I'm doing. Like I go to concerts quite frequently, so I'll take some footage there and things like that. But you also have a lot of creative freedom when you're editing vlogs, because you can put montages. Everyone's montages are different. I've been watching a lot of reading vlogs this week with the reading rush, and I really like, well, everything that Books and Lala does is absolutely amazing. I don't know anybody who can, like, I've been watching Books and Lala's vlogs recently, and it just makes you feel inadequate, and not because of anything she's doing, it's just she's just so good at everything. And it's like, how are you so good at everything? But like, she has a very different style to like Chelsea Darling Reads, who's really good at reading vlogs. So I love how you can put your personality into the editing and filming of a reading vlog, from everything to the updates that you do and the way you speak about books to the styles of montages. So I just find it to be a really creative way of making content.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you're both saying that you really want to see more of the person's character, the person's personality, what makes them unique from the other person, even with something as simple as like editing differently. I love
I
that.
think it comes like, obviously there are a lot of hyped books on booktube, so I could go and watch, like, say we have 10 booktubers, and what's coming out soon, like Ninth House is coming out by Leigh Bardugo. I could probably estimate that at least 7 of those booktubers would be buying and reading it, but I would probably only watch one person's review, and it would be because of that person's personality. So the people that we watch, I think, is probably about 30% their reading taste and 70% their personality. So reading vlogs give you a way to explore their personality a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, and I completely agree. There are a lot of people that I follow that I would never read anything they recommend.
Same.
But I love them as people.
Yeah.
Allana, how about you?
I think something I've loved seeing recently in like channels that I've loved and like enjoyed watching is when they like shout out booktubers, and not just sorry, I'm trying to think of words. Not like they have to shout out like small booktube channels or anything like that, but just channels that they enjoy that aren't even about booktube. So like Ali from Ali with Books put out a video, I think maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, I can't remember, and it was just like all of her favorite channels that she loves. Some of them were like Disneyland vlog related channels, and some of them were just like other booktubers, and some of them were just life channels. And so I love when, like, I guess bigger booktubers, but just booktubers in general, like shout out the like other channels, so you can just find other people to watch, I guess. So like Naya from Naya Reads and Smiles, she recently decided to, I think, not every video, but majority of her videos now, every time she starts a video, she'll shout out a booktuber, which I thought was pretty cool, or a YouTuber in general. And so I like that because, one, it allows you to find channels that maybe you've never really heard of or thought of looking for, even if they're not within the booktube community. But I also like that because it allows someone to grow as well if they're not like maybe able to get the same spotlight as like someone else, or not spotlight, but like, you know what I mean? Like, nah.
And also, like, if you're already following someone, then that means that there's something you like about them. Then maybe that the person they're recommending, like I trust the recommendations I get from my friends more than like a recommendation just randomly popping up and finding some channel. You know, like if you told me to follow someone, I wouldn't even watch shit. I would just press subscribe, you know? So sometimes it's about like vouching for each other.
Yeah, and I love like being able to like recommend like maybe certain videos to that. I have no friends do, like Kerri. There's a girl on Twitter who's doing like an astrology recommend video, astrological recommend or whatever, zodiac signs recommend, sorry. And literally the whole entire chat was like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what my sign means. And I was just like, I kept sending them your link because I was like, well, here's a video for Sagittarius that Kerri did. Here's a video for Cancer that Kerri did. She literally did this whole video. Here you go, kind of thing. So like, I just love being able to do that because it's like maybe they never heard of your channel and now they know you have this whole entire series of zodiac videos.
Awesome.
But like, I don't know, it just opens up a new outlet for people, I feel like.
Yeah. I definitely am a big fan of the shout out. The booktuber shout out. We should bring that tag back. Everybody watching this, do the booktuber shout outs tag again. Let's do another round of that. Since there's so many of us. And similarly, so we talked about what we want to see more in our subscription feed, but is there something that you would want to see more of within the book Twitter community?
I just put chill the heck out. I love book Twitter. I'm on it every single day. I'm an active part of it. I love it. But mob mentality is a thing, and book Twitter is very quick to cancel people or get upset at something without knowing the context or something like that. Like they are so quick to hop on it, and because people don't want to be like left out or like they don't want to be out of the loop, they want to know what's going on, they'll just jump on the first thing they see and just sort of ride that, even though that might be misinformation, because we all know misinformation is very common. Again, me being a former reporter, that gets on my nerves. But you know, it's definitely something I think we can work on, maybe looking more into something before making comments about it, because once that comment is made, that might perpetuate the misinformation. Or, you know, that tweet might get retweeted and, you know, you might be completely wrong and end up really hurting somebody with that. I think we just need to slow down, especially when, you know, there's controversy and drama and everything, and just take a moment, breathe, look into it before you make comments, because I know that once that comment train gets going, it can be great.
Yeah. So you're asking book Twitter to be more accountable and research before talking shit.
If you're gonna talk shit knowing you know your shit.
That's right. Bring those receipts.
Talk shit. If you don't know shit, don't talk shit.
I love it. How about you, Becca? What do you think we can do differently on book Twitter?
I need to see less of book Twitter. Like, I love going on Twitter and I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but it's exactly as Kerri said. And I think that there is a real problem with people seeing somebody else doing something and having an opinion on it. Like, you don't have to have an opinion on everything. And if you do have an opinion, like I have plenty of opinions, I'm pretty opinionated, but you wouldn't know that from looking on Twitter, because I accept that other people have different opinions. I know one of the things at the minute is, I don't know how it started, but somebody saying that booktubers don't go to the library. And it's like, well, what does it matter to you? Why do you care where other people get their books from? Like, why do you care that other people spend their money on books? Like the people who were complaining about booktubers buying a lot. But I watched a video, I think it was Jess from Jess Reads Books that did it, because she got cancelled for something she said. I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't even a bad thing, really. Just somebody flew off the handle about it. But she made a video and she made a very good point that I think Jess is about 28, I'm 26. And she said that her generation, which is my generation, did not grow up. Like, as children, we did not have technology. So if we had a problem with people, we had to speak to people face to face about it, or you had to pick up a phone and call somebody. So you had to actually think about what you were saying, and you had to be aware of how the other person would receive that information. Whereas now people are so used to having disposable, like, communication. So I can write a tweet in 10 seconds and never think of it again. And I can also hit mute on it if I don't want to hear what anybody else has said about it. Like, people say things, and they don't have to deal with the repercussions or the consequences. So they're more likely to say things that they would not say to people's faces, which is a problem. Like, I'm somebody who very much understands the power of words. Like, I've been in raging arguments with, like, for example, my mum, and I've wanted to say something that's like really hurtful, as you do in an argument. But I always stop and think, like, I'm not going to say that, because you can't take that back. Like I said, I understand the importance of words, and things that people have said to me in an argument, or things that I've said like 5 years ago, I'm still embarrassed about now when I think about it. So I would never do that in any sort of format, like say anything that I can't take back.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up, it's almost like the difference between what we're calling like cancel culture and what we used to have was call out culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very into the call out. I think I'm pretty known for the call out. Not so much with booktubers, but with authors, because I think authors have a responsibility. But I agree. I think we're moving like a little bit. I don't know, Becca, if you know this, but I'm a therapist, and I love that you bring up like interpersonal skills. Like, people have feelings, and nobody's going to grow or change unless you show them vulnerability first. Like, I've had people be mad at me about things that I've done on my channel, and I'm going to be honest, because they were nasty about it, I'm not sorry. You know what I mean?
Same.
Right. But if
But
they
you can
me and
you
said,
can
like,
disagree. Sorry.
oh, it's okay.
You can disagree with people and still be respectful. You can subtweet somebody and say, oh, this person's done this and I think it's disgusting, or why do people do this all the time? Or you could tweet something and say, like, I don't like to do this because of this reasons, and I think it has this effects on other people. And it's just, it opens the conversation in a completely different tone than just saying, because what we have is somebody saying, I don't like this thing, and then everybody else saying, oh, well, I don't like that either. And then somebody comes in and says, oh, well, actually, I do like that thing, and they're just completely shut out because everybody else doesn't like it. And it's just, I think it's tone, and also people need to think about the repercussions of what they're saying and realize that people are people. Just because it's like watching television doesn't mean that anybody is this untouchable person that lives behind a screen. Like, we are all humans.
Right. And especially BookTube is such a small community. Like, we actually read our comments, you know, like, we're not the big guns all the way like in YouTubeville. We actually hear people when they talk about us.
Yeah.
And it hurts, man. We got to do some sort of interpersonal skills video soon. I love that you brought that up.
Professional.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm going to put that on you because you're the professional. I can't offer
that. Coming to a screen near you soon, interpersonal skills with guest hosts Becca, Kerri, and Allana. So we're talking about book Twitter. Allana, do you think there's anything we should do differently on book Twitter?
I mean, honestly, like Kerri and Becca said it like most, it's just one, recognizing that you should probably get all the facts before you start like commenting on things. Like, the one example is the library books thing, which I feel like, I think for me, I just always am like, why do people care? Like, it's just, I always just ask that question to myself whenever something blows up like that. I'm like, why does it matter? Because like, I don't live with you. I don't, like, I respect your opinion. Like, I love that you are voicing it, but like, why do you care? Like, why does it affect you that much, I guess? And like, either way. And another example, I think, no, I won't say that, but I think just also recognizing that like, there are just always going to be two sides of an opinion, and that you're like, if you meet someone who has that opposite opinion, you're probably never ever going to agree on that. And that's okay, as long as you're like respectful about it. And I think it's so easy to forget that like, there's someone behind this screen right now, and that like, again, your words can hurt. And so also realizing that like, BookTube is just one small bubble. Like, if I were to walk outside that bubble and talk to someone about what was happening in BookTube, they would look at me like, what is going on? Like, are you okay? Do you need to like, why is this a thing? And I'm like, sometimes I'll talk to my mom, and she looks at me and she's like, Allana, why do I care about this? And I'm like, because you're my mother, you need to care because I care. But like, But it's just, I'm realizing that like it's just one small part of like the world, and like once you step outside of that, like if you go to work or if you go to school or something like that, it's not the end all, I guess. So like I don't know if I'm making sense or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like realizing that booktube is not the end all be all.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
about perspective. Like,
yeah,
if something bothers you, I mean, for the library thing, I just want to like, also it's about insight and understanding why you're upset about something, because when people talk about the library books, what they're talking about really is money, privilege, jealousy, etc., etc. Like, but then, you know, you look like a fool saying it's about libraries when it's about something else. But yeah, it's about perspective too, and whenever we do step outside of our little community, as cute as it is, you know, it's not that as dramatic as people make it out to be. But then you kind of look at it like, listen, I could just delete my whole channel right now and none of this would matter.
yeah, and like it's recognizing that like I'm 23. I don't know why I almost said I was 24. I'm not. I'm 23. I'm not gonna sit online and argue with like a 28-year-old or a 19-year-old about whatever is going on. Like that's just pointless. And like I don't know. That's just my opinion. I try not to like voice my opinion much on Twitter because I just never want to like activate those like people to come after me, because I would literally sit in a corner and cry. But I just think it's just when you take a step back from it all, you're just kind of like, okay, this is not the most important thing in my life right now.
Yeah.
I'm remembering that.
This is actually the perfect segue into my next question, because Teresa from Just Bookish Things recommended for us to talk about that recent Guardian article. So the Guardian article was basically, from my understanding of the commentary on my little corner of BookTube, was that they were recommending books that like none of us talk about anymore, and it basically showed an extremely disconnected, outdated, outsider view of the bookish community. So I wanted to ask you guys, what was your reaction to that?
My first reaction was ew, because the beginning of the response was no teenage experience is complete without flowers in the attic.
Yeah.
And in the parentheses, it said abused kids in an attic, ... weird stuff happens. And I'm like, you mean incest happens? What the? I feel like, first of all, that was just irresponsible to recommend books that maybe, I mean, this child is 14 that they were recommending the book for. I feel like whoever responded to that could have done better. It's of this age appropriate content. But also, I was shocked. I saw a comment. It was like, why is a recommendation list for a teenager completely lacking YA titles? I feel like this person was older, not connected to the book community in any way, didn't even look at the New York Times bestseller list, because if they did, they would see like The Hate You Give would probably be like the most common recommendation. Let's be real. I just feel like it was someone pulling from their own experience rather than actually thinking of what would be best for the individual that they were trying to advise for. Also, I think it's dumb that the mother was trying to get this child, like trying to convert her into being a reader by just throwing titles at her, as if that would work. Like as if you could give her just a stack of books and that would fix it, and she would stop going on social media and she would all of a sudden become a reader. J.K. Rowling is problematic, but I think her quote is, if you're not a reader, you haven't found the right book yet. So like, I feel like that was just the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah,
But
you made several points, like several things that this author got wrong.
Listen, I have feelings.
Becca, what did you think?
I feel like I need to explain myself here, but I wasn't surprised. There's a couple of reasons I wasn't surprised. The first is that The Guardian is a UK newspaper, and I know what they're like. And the second is, and I don't want to like, I know Kerri said that she used to be a reporter, but I did a degree and half of my degree was journalism, and journalism students are just not my kind of people. The ones that were in my particular classes were very they talk down to people, even the people who are in the same class with them doing the same things, and they would all just talk down on each other. And the lecturer would be like trying to teach something, and then somebody would be like, well, I actually think this, and then somebody else would go, well, I actually think this.
Oh my god.
So to me, and my experience of journalism as being a journalism student and also knowing what UK news and what UK newspapers are like, I'm not surprised, because it seems like this person wants to come across as being really intelligent, because that is what I learned from experience in a journalism classroom. So yeah, it's like, oh well, somebody's mother wants me to recommend some books to her teenage daughter, so let's give her all of these really intellectual classics that she's going to hate, because YA and popular fiction and enjoyable fiction is trash in the minds of especially newspapers like The Guardian.
Mm-hmm. Kerri, do you have a rebuttal?
I'm just going to say I agree. Journalism students are pretentious as shit, but then they actually get to the real world and they learn that they're at the bottom of the damn totem pole, and they just that up and just do the grunt work, which is exactly what I did. I wasn't pretentious. I like to think I wasn't, but I wasn't a journalism student. I was just a communication and media student. But once you get into the actual field, you got to do the grunt work. You're no longer the smartest person in the room. Everyone's above you, and so you learn some damn humility.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Journalism students are obnoxious as hell. I will confirm.
So we all learned something about reporters today, or at least journalism students, and I appreciate that. Allana, is there anything that your co-guests didn't say that you have to add about this article?
I mean, I think it was also I understand where her mom was kind of coming from, from a bookseller perspective. When I worked at Barnes and Noble, I would have parents come in and ask me recommendations for their kids, or sometimes I'd have kids come up and ask me for recommendations, stuff like that. But I think it was misguided a little bit, because of the fact that she didn't go to her daughter and oh, what are you try and find out what she's interested in, and this reporter didn't even think to, he just I don't know who wrote it, but they just
text, because I was I bet this is a man, but it was a woman.
Oh,
okay. You that makes it worse. She generalized, just kind of generalized that all teenagers, whatever, liked this, and when I worked at Barnes & Noble, I would always, especially when it was a teenager I was dealing with, and they would come in and ask me what they like to read, or what to read, or if a parent came in with their child, I would look at the person, I'd be okay, well, what do you like to watch? What movies do you like to watch? What TV shows do you like to watch? What are you interested in? Because I would try and find a book in that genre / maybe that has the same idea behind it. So if they liked crime shows, I would try and find a book in that genre, or if they liked romantic comedies, I would try to find something in that. And I think sometimes parents have this bias where they're just oh, I want my kid to read, so they'll just read anything, and it's no, that's not how that works. I hated reading in school because they made me read in school, and they made me read not bad books, but just books I wasn't interested in, and so it just kind of made it worse. And I didn't read until I found books that I actually felt I could enjoy, maybe connect with on a certain level. Granted, my first book series that I loved was Twilight, so there wasn't really a real way to connect with that, because that was not realistic. But I loved it because it was just different. But one example, I had a mom come in, and she was asking me for recommendations for her son because he was doing a book report, and this kid was 11, and so I was thinking, okay, middle grade. What books are popular? Harry Potter, Percy Jackson. I was listing all those things, and I kept picking up the books, and she would just be I think that's a little too difficult for him. And I was confused, because I was your kid's 11, he can read sentences, right? Not to be mean, but I'm assuming since he's gotten this far, he can handle it. But she kept just degrading him in a way. She was just oh, he can't read that far, to the point where I was recommending her Captain Underpants comic books. adults, which is not a bad thing. But I was like, you wanted your kid to like get into reading, but you're like undermining what he can read. Like, I don't know. I just think people tend to like think of teenagers and like their reading aspects and stuff like that, and I feel like they also undermine their abilities. Like they just, like, I remember when I read Twilight, like it was hard because there were a lot of like adults that just were like, well, this isn't a serious like book, you shouldn't be reading this, like in my life. And I was like, it's a fantasy novel, like I'm not gonna go out and start like biting people or anything, like it's fine. So I think just like adults in general kind of just need to realize that like the YA world is like, I don't know, it's good. I guess if that makes sense. I don't know if any of that made sense at all.
Absolutely. You just said something. Shoot. The YA world. Oh, this reminds me of like, I'm seeing book Twitter especially, like basically saying what you said, like let teenagers speak for themselves. Like teenagers are like older children. They have voices, like they can communicate. Yeah. And I've been seeing that a lot on book Twitter, even with authors being like, I don't give a fuck what an adult reading my book thinks. I wrote it for teenagers.
Yeah, the person I love seeing is Jake Kristoff when he like tweets the like responses to his books, because it's just like, okay, thanks. It wasn't meant for you, but thanks for giving me your opinion. That was unnecessary.
Like, thanks for buying my book. Thanks for the money, but move aside.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 2 questions left. While I'm asking you this next question, I would like the folks in the chat room to come up with one question for you guys. And then my moderator, Sabrina, is going to pick one of those, and that'll be the last one for the episode. So while I'm asking number 9, please, folks in the chat room, come up with a question for Allana, Kerri, and Becca. So question number 9 is, what advice do you have for individuals in their first year of BookTube, watching book hauls and buying books based on your personal mistakes?
Don't break the bank. Just starting out. Honestly, you can do so much with an iPhone. You can do so much. Ness from By Nexa edits everything on their phone. Cindy from Read with Cindy. If you think you can't like grow with just an iPhone, look at Cindy, because she's like killing the game. Basic editing software. You don't have to go ahead and get Adobe Premiere Pro. Literally, iMovie works just fine. It does everything you need, or Windows Movie Maker, it does everything you need. If you don't have the funds to, have these giant, gorgeous shelves filled with all these books, you don't have to. Again, Cindy's like my prime example, but like she exclusively reads from the library. Like, I think she's got a video of like why I only own 4 books, and she's like gotten more sense than just as gifts. But like, you can do so much spending so little. I promise you. You can use your library. Not everything you buy has to be brand new. If you want to get like fun new titles, use Book Outlet, use thrift books, use eBay. Honestly, like there are so many options. And I think people get caught up in the aesthetic of it all. They're like, oh, I need high quality videos. I need to have all these fancy transitions with the editing. I need like to have these gorgeous bookshelves behind me. You don't need that unless you want it. If you want it, go ahead and get it. But don't feel like you need to have that in order to fit in, because the majority of us don't have that. And we still love being a part of the community. People still watch our stuff. It has no effect on the quality of content that you can make, aside from like the DPI of like whatever your video is. But you can do so much with so little. Don't feel like you can't join just because you don't have all of what you see in like big booktubers, because those are ones that are getting AdSense money, that are getting sponsorship deals. They've been doing this for so many years, so they have committed this to being a part of their life. So they've invested in it. But if you're just starting out and you just want to do it as a hobby, you don't have to go all out of here.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Right. Amen. How about you, Becca? What advice do you have for newbie booktubers who are spending a lot of money?
I have actually, just while Kerri was talking, I have been scanning my shelves, and I think that I have only bought 1 book that I pre-ordered because it was hyped. Everything else, like the way that I buy books personally, and this is how I've always bought books, and being on BookTube has not necessarily changed that. aside from the fact that I read a lot more, so I like a lot more authors now. But the way that I buy books is when I was 17 or 18, I didn't have a lot of money. So I used to go to charity shops or thrift stores and I would just see what was there. I didn't know BookTube existed, but I did have like Bookstagram. So if I saw like Cassandra Clare, I found I think the first 3 books in the Model Instrument series secondhand, and it becomes a kind of game like, oh, what books can I see that are like really hyped and that people are interested in? I can find secondhand. I go to my library for books that I don't think I'm going to like or I don't know if I'm going to like, but I do want to read. And then the only books that I buy new are books by authors that I already like or books in a series I've already started. And then anything that's kind of like hyped on BookTube that I'm kind of interested in, I do know put in my Amazon wish list, and then I send that to my friends and family like at birthdays and Christmas. And that is the way that I have always pretty much bought books. Like I said, I do buy a lot more books now because of the fact that I read so much more. So like I know about a lot more authors. Like Jay Kristoff is now an auto-buy author. I pre-order all of his books, but I didn't in the past. But I just think it's you don't have to have what everybody else has, and you don't have to have something just because everybody else has it. I mean, a prime example of books being hyped that aren't that great is I received a subscription box recently, and it was a sponsorship, and part of the sponsorship was that I do an unboxing and then I make a reading vlog where I also read the book. Now, this is a book, it's The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg, and it's a book that is very hyped at the minute. It's been sent, like tons of arcs have been sent out, and then it was included in that subscription box. That was a 3-star book. And I know that all of the people that have received the arcs, not all of them have read them for a star. And people also need to pay attention to what booktubers are saying. For example, if I'm hauling a book and I say, this book is about this, like, I've heard that it's about this and it has these really cool aspects and I'm really excited to read it. I'm excited to read it because the concept sounds cool. I haven't read it. So like I don't buy books based on a haul. I buy books based on wrap-ups because that is what people, when people are telling me if they like them. And generally speaking, like I have like half of my degree or like a third of my degree was journalism, but the rest was advertising and marketing. So I can generally tell that if you see 10 different booktubers have all been sent the same book from publishers, it is because there is a hell of a lot of money behind that book to push it out because it's not going to do amazing on release. Like there's a reason that Laini Taylor, Leigh Bardugo, Sarah J. Maas, and Jay Kristoff arcs are so highly sought after. And it is because they don't need the marketing money because they're going to sell anyway. So you can pretty much guarantee that if a lot of people are getting all of the same arcs or are buying all of the same book, then it's I'd say you've got like a 70% chance of it not being the best thing ever because the publishers know that they need to put so much more advertising into it. So yeah, I would say buy books based on wrap-ups, not based on hauls. Identify the booktubers that have a similar reading taste to you. Identify what you like in a book. For example, I like a lot of world building. So if somebody says this book has really great world building, then I'm more inclined to buy it than if somebody says this is a really great fantasy novel, but nothing's really explained, then I'm not going to buy that one. So just identify what you like. Don't be influenced by everything that's going on. To be a booktuber, you don't need anything apart from a phone. If you've got a phone, you can be a booktuber. And you don't have to have a lot of books. As time goes on, you will probably buy more books. I still buy a lot of books, but a lot of them are secondhand. I go thrifting. But just, I would say pay attention and don't get caught up in the hype. I tend to, if I see a book that's being hyped, I put it in my wish list. And like, you can totally like put it in a wish list. And then in 6 months, if nobody's ever like spoken about it since, then take it off your wish list because it wasn't a good book, which is generally the rule because nobody read it.
Right. Oh my God. I was just like, I love everything that you brought in from like your degree and marketing and advertising and like talking about the game publishers play, right? I mean, publishers aren't here to make us happy. They're here to make money.
Yeah.
And I love bringing that, bringing the spotlight on that because like we can't be naive in what we're doing. Like, we're here for each
Mhm.
other and to protect each other from the nonsense. And the advice that you gave, that's a very good way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allana, how about you? Since you're, how long have you been on BookTube, Allana?
I think I'm about to hit 2 years next month.
Okay. So what advice do you have for people in their first year?
I mean, basically, my answer is probably piggybacking off of Kerri and Becca, but like, yeah, you definitely don't need to buy like all these expensive things. Honestly, I recommend not doing that because who knows if you're going to keep wanting to do it after a year or even after a couple of months.
Right.
When I started, I just used my laptop, which granted, don't look for those videos, but I just used my laptop to film, and I didn't have I wasn't in a place because I was in my third year of college, so I wasn't in a place where I could buy all of these books. So I honestly just kept using the books that I owned, and I was like, okay, I know I talked about this in the previous video, but I'm going to talk about this again, because I was just like, I'm just here to talk about the books that I love, and honestly, if I can't afford to buy it, it's fine. And another thing I learned was that, again, hyped books, it's okay to wait. I personally always wait for the hype to die down, because I always find that if I give in and then I buy it and then I read it, it's not as great as everybody said it was. And I always feel bad saying that, but then I'm like, but do I really feel bad saying that? No. But or I'll actually, if there is a book I'm interested in that is hyped, I will look at the reviews. So I always look at a positive review and a negative review to see what people liked and then what people didn't like. And it's well, if I can overlook the things that people dislike, if it's not problematic, if it doesn't insult anybody, okay, then I'll put it on my wish list or my TBR. And once I have a substantial enough money that I deem worthy of buying books, then I can go and eventually do that. Also, you don't always have to go to Barnes & Noble. Again, you can go to thrift stores. You can do online books. You can do Kindle books. I have so many books on my Kindle that I bought through all 4 years of college because I didn't have enough room for bookshelves my first 2 years. So especially in the dorm, because our dorm was really small. So I just kept buying Kindle books, and I kept going for the free books because I was poor also, being in college. So anytime I would just scour, ooh, what's free today? And I would look through, and if something caught my interest, that's what I would go for. So you definitely don't need all the fancy stuff. You don't need all these books to do a book haul. Honestly, if you really look at it, yes, the bigger booktubers can do hauls more frequently because, again, they're sponsored and all this kind of stuff. But if you look at the average booktuber, we don't do hauls that often. I mean, at least I don't. And from the people I'm subscribed to, it doesn't seem like they do either. Maybe once every couple of months, maybe, I don't know. Again, I could be wrong, so sorry if I am. But personally, I don't. It's not something I just. And it's okay that if you do that more often. It's okay if you don't do that more often, but it's just not something you necessarily need. Again, you could use the library. You can do library hauls. Chanel from Chanel Time just did one because she was saying that she doesn't see those that often. You could totally do that. When I was at college, I finally started using my library after a while once I knew where it was and that I could get there without being super anxious or anything. And so once I started found that, I started using that more and incorporating. But I was also buying books too, so I was using both things if my library maybe didn't have something that I really wanted to read or something like that. Yeah. So I guess if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So those are several tips to save you folks some money, okay? Because we're here complaining about libraries. Meanwhile, we can't afford houses and we eat avocado toast every day. So
also, can I add one more thing? Sorry.
Sure.
One more thing is that you don't have to do hauls and stuff to be relatable. I find that TBRs and wrap-ups are the most relatable videos for me, because with TBRs, someone is always going to want to read the book you're about to read. So they're always going to be interested to hear what your thoughts are. And in wrap-ups, again, they're going to want to hear what you have to say about the books that you are reading. So they're the most relatable videos you can make, because someone's always going to want to see what you have to say about whatever book you're talking about.
Amen. Love it. So go into the chat room. Sabrina, did you pick a question for us? I see a bunch of questions. Let's give her a minute. Maybe while she's responding to me, do you guys have anything to say to each other?
Hi, guys. I mean, I was texting Allana earlier. We did a buddy read for Reading Rush. But I feel like I never talked to you, Becca. Hi.
Hi. I think, well, we'd probably talk a little bit on Twitter.
Probably. I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's someone, I don't know if anybody else realizes this, but don't you just like, there's so many people that you talk to on Twitter that you just see all the time on Twitter, but then you realize that you don't know them from anywhere outside of Twitter. Like, you don't subscribe to them or anything, and you're like, oh, I thought we were like best friends, but I don't watch your content. Sorry. There's like so many people like that.
Someone's like, oh yeah, I watched this video. I was like, I didn't see it in my feed, and then I go and like I was never subscribed to them. I was like,
yeah.
All right.
Or like when you talk about.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, or when you talk about like your booktube friends with like real life people, and they're like, oh, how do you know this person? It's like Twitter, booktube.
Yeah.
You don't know them, but I know them. It's fine.
Yeah.
I did.
Bookish events are nice because then you can like have a photo with them, and then you're like, look, it's a real human. We're friends.
Yeah. I actually have friends. It's okay.
I love it. Okay, so our question is, what's a recent read that you'd recommend that you have not seen hyped a lot on BookTube?
I'm going to go ahead and re-recommend Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylwia Moreno Garcia. The only person I've seen talk about that is Joss from Yogi with a Book. She was the one that actually put it on my radar. And it was initially on my radar because, okay, I'm going to give you guys the basic synopsis. So it takes place in 1920s Mexico, and we follow a girl named Cassiopeia who accidentally unleashes the Mayan god of death, who had been trapped and his throne usurped by another god. So she accidentally releases him, and then because she was the one that released him, he is like pulling from her life support until he can become fully restored. So she has to go with him, and she's kind of like stuck with him as they go to like get him back to being God status so he can take back his throne. It's a bit of a take on the death and the maiden trope, but it definitely has to deal with especially Mayan mythology, Mayan gods. That's something that I actually studied. Part of the story takes place in Merida, Mexico, which is actually where I studied abroad, which was like hella cool for me because I like knew what they were talking about.
Oh my God.
But it's got some of the most gorgeous writing ever. It's so unique. I have never seen a book that deals with Mayan mythos before. And it was just awesome. I read it in like 2 sittings. So the cover's gorgeous too. So even if it's just a cover by like you're in good hands.
Awesome. How about you, Becca?
Okay, so I'm going to recommend The Furies by Katie Lowe. Now, this is a book that I picked up in a charity shop, and it was an art copy, which is why I picked it up. And I was like, oh, an art copy. I do that a lot in charity shops. And I thought I would read it and then just be like, oh, that was cool, and haul it. But I actually gave it 5 stars. So The Furies is a book by a British author. And I don't normally like books by British authors. So that's something else that was a little bit interested about it. So it follows a girl whose father has died. Her father and little sister died in a car accident, and she has just finished school. And in the UK, we finish school at 16, and then we go into 6th form, which is like in between school and university. And she's planning on just getting a job, but her mother has received a huge settlement from this accident. So she tries to convince her daughter to go to this exclusive private all-girls school. And our main character, I think she's called Violet, ends up going there and falling in love with the grounds. It has been the site of some witch trials back in the 1600s. And there was the story starts off where there is a girl that's found dead on the school grounds, and then the book like sort of narrates the year that goes up to that, and it is about this main character who becomes friends with this group of like really, they're like outcasts, but like cool outcasts, and everybody's like a little bit scared of them, and kind of like they have this aura about them, and it contains a secret society. There's also witchcraft. They summon the Furies from ancient Greek myth, and it's just like really atmospheric and dramatic, and it has a lot of feminist themes in it. And one of the things that I liked about it is that it doesn't just, there are some bad men in it, and there are like quite a few bad male characters in it, but it doesn't like then put women on a pedestal. Like the women also go too far, like when they're trying to get revenge. So I really like that about it, because I find with books with heavy feminist themes, it's sometimes like men are evil, women are great. But I liked how the women weren't perfect either. And yeah, we have the occult in there. It's like The Craft. It's like the movie The Craft, but British.
Ooh.
Essentially. And I've heard nobody talk about it apart from me.
Oh my God. Well, I'm adding both of those books to my TBR right now. Allana, how about you?
The recent book I read, and I feel like mostly people haven't talked about it because it came out a couple years ago, but it's Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. I recently read this because it was one of my prompts for the Book Junkie Trials, and I really enjoyed it just because of the fact of that it had like I felt like it had really good mental health rep. It's not Own Voices, but the author, I feel like she did really, really good research to represent the mental health aspect in it. It's essentially about like a girl who has OCD, and she kind of hides it from her friends because she's part of like the popular crowd, and she doesn't want them to basically excommunicate her because of the fact that she does suffer from mental health issues. And she ends up finding this like quirky group of like kids who do like poetry in like this weird place in their school, and so she kind of finds like a safe space to like express like herself in a way that she hasn't been able to do within her own like life and friend group and stuff like that. And I think I love the book so much because the author does a really good job of portraying that like mental health does not look the same for everybody. Like OCD may look one way for one person, but it may look completely a different way for another person. And I really, really loved that aspect of it because there's a certain plot point in the book where you really see how like it's not the same. And then I loved also the fact that therapy was such a positive thing in the book as well. Like she is continuously seeing a therapist, and the therapist is just like not like, and it's like a healthy form of therapy. It's not like the therapist like telling her what she needs to do to like fix her life. It's like the therapist just kind of like walking her along, like seeing, like checking in and seeing how her life is doing and why, like just understanding like why she's making the choices that she is and stuff like that. So I felt like it was just a really beautiful book. And again, it came out a couple years ago, so that's why probably nobody's talking about it. But I'm just gonna talk about it again.
Cool. I already own that one, so I'm definitely going to be reading that. Thank all three of you. Thank you so much for coming to my channel and gracing me with your perspectives.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was very wild to just hear so many differing opinions on something that like when we're all alone in our home, you kind of just think that like we all think the same, but absolutely not. We don't. We're all totally different. And for the viewers, please leave us a smiley face, heart, or emoji down below to let us know that you are here, and come talk to us on Twitter. Thanks, guys.